The shocking truth about Jeffrey Epstein's death, what they never told you at 3 a.m. the dead of night, when shadows danced in eerie silence, the world held its breath. Jeffrey Epstein, a man shrouded in secrets, was found lifeless in his cell, a scandal that shook the foundations of power and wealth. Whispers of conspiracy filled the air, leaving trembling hearts and questioning minds. What really happened that fateful night? The walls seemed to listen, every flicker of light casting a dark veil over the shocking truth that still eludes us. The first bizarre element that raised eyebrows across the nation was the inexplicable malfunction of those security cameras. Just moments before Epstein's untimely demise, 2 cameras failed to record. It hummed with disbelief. How could such a critical oversight happen in one of the most monitored facilities in the world? The hairs on the back of your neck prick at the possibilities. Was it pure coincidence or a deliberate act masked in shadows? And yet, the plot thickened even further. Reports emerged of mysterious guards who fell asleep during their shifts. The thought of their heavy eyelids while the fate of a man hung in balance ignited rage and confusion alike. Tension gripped the room as disbelief washed over those who dared to analyze every detail. Who was pulling the strings, and why did it feel like pieces of a larger puzzle were being hidden right in front of us? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the pieces began to intertwine, the mystery deepened. Was it really suicide, or a calculated escape? To think, the once invincible mogul now lay sprawled on cold cement, a twisted final chapter to his infamous story. The whispers in the hallways echoed louder. He knew too much, didn't he? A chill raced down spines, and every heartbeat sounded like a countdown to the truth. But just when you think you've reached the edge of understanding, the revelations get wilder. Did you hear about the mysterious visitors he had the weeks leading up to his death? Big names, powerful names that sent shockwaves through those who knew even an ounce of his life. The clock ticked ominously, questions hovered thick in the air. What secrets did Epstein keep that were worth silencing him forever? And just who was willing to commit murder to protect those secrets? The door creaked under the weight of unknown truths, as our minds teetered on the brink of what's next. Would they ever uncover the twisted narrative behind Epstein's death? Would the darkness ever yield its answers, or would it cloak itself further, pulling us into a web of intrigue that may never see the light? The air crackled with tension as investigators pored over every detail of the case. They combed through reports, analyzed security footage from other angles, hoping for a clue hidden in a grainy pixel or an overlooked communication. Words like discrepancy and inconsistency began to populate their discussions, but what truly gnawed at them was a gnawing feeling, a sense that they were being watched. Days passed, yet the unsettling unease intensified. Rumors spread like wildfire, with theories branching out into absurd lengths. Perhaps Epstein had faked his death. Maybe he was living in a mansion somewhere far away, far from the heat of the law. Each day, names surfaced from the shadows, high-profile connections that sent chills down spines, politicians, celebrities, even royalty. They all had something to lose, and the question tugged at the back of everyone's mind, who among them had the most to gain? Meanwhile, an anonymous source slipped information to a journalist known for chasing whispers in the dark. The journalist, a relentless seeker of truth, felt the weight of the unfolding narrative press down upon him. The source spoke of a hidden ledger, a list containing names that could topple empires. It glittered like gold in the dark, a mouth-watering bait for anyone brave enough to chase those threads. Was it the key to unlocking the mystery? Or a trap designed to draw them deeper into the maze of unknown? As the journalist dug deeper, he stumbled upon a name that turned his blood cold, an influential billionaire whose ties to Epstein went back decades. This hadn't been mere acquaintanceship, this was a partnership forged in shadows, each one hiding secrets that could dismantle the carefully constructed facades of their grand lives. Were they involved in his death? The thought hung heavy, each revelation felt like stepping onto increasingly fragile ice, tossing and turning at night. The journalist couldn't escape the pull of intrigue. He could see the potential fame, fortune, and a chance to illuminate the sinfulness lurking beneath polished surfaces. But with ambition came a price, didn't it? One night, driven by an insatiable hunger for truth, he found himself outside a high-security high-rise that whispered of clandestine meetings. From the shadows, he made out silhouettes, a group of figures huddled together, their urgent whispers piercing the night's silence. Hard pressure squeezed his chest as he pressed closer, instinct urging him to listen, to record, to discover. Epstein wasn't supposed to die, you know, one voice hissed, thick with tension. We made sure of that. We just need to keep it under wraps or else. Panic surged like adrenaline through his veins, and in that instant, he understood. The game was more dangerous than he had anticipated, lives teetered on the fragile brink of exposure. But the truth was a siren call, luring him closer. Realizing he couldn't go back, he stepped just out of view, heart racing as shadows shifted like anxious specters. Who were they planning to silence next? The walls echoed with dark implications, and the night felt charged with possibilities as he prepared to record. The ground shifted beneath him. Would he become prey in this dangerous game? Or would he unveil the shocking truth before it swallowed him whole? With thoughts racing, he considered what could happen next. Would the truth finally be uncovered, or would he be the next victim, sacrificed to keep the dark secrets hidden? The shadows loomed larger as the journalist balanced on the edge of a decision that could change everything. He held his breath, feeling the weight of his phone in his hand. Every moment felt like eternity as muffled conversations echoed around him, an unholy choir of whispered secrets. Do you think they have eyes on us? Another voice spoke, shaky but resolute. Of course they do. Always watching, always listening, came the reply, filled with an ominous certainty. But we hold the key. We aren't going to let it slip through our fingers. His pulse quickened. These weren't mere conspirators, they were terrified, but they also held power. The way they spoke hinted at an unseen network lurking in the shadows, a system determined to protect itself at all costs. Faces flashed through his mind: politicians, celebrities, all those he had uncovered in his research. Just then, a bright light from a passing car illuminated the gathering, and he caught a glimpse of one man's face. A wave of recognition swept over him. It was the billionaire, the one whose connections ran deep and dark. Just his presence in this secretive meeting sent a chill down his spine, whispers carried on the wind. We can't let anyone find out about the ledger. If it leaks, we are all finished. Fear dripped from each word. He leaned in closer, needing to capture every detail. His hands trembled. This was it, this was the breakthrough. But a sudden sound caused him to freeze. A twig snapped beneath his weight, a reminder of how precariously balanced he was, knee-deep in a web of deception. Did you hear that? Another figure said, suddenly alert. His heart roared in his ears as he detected movement behind him. Someone was coming. He had no time to think, only the instinct to run. His legs propelled him back from the edge, darting into the safe embrace of the dark alleyway, his breath coming in sharp gasps. I'll check it out, the billionaire's voice commanded. Stay close. He didn't dare turn back, fear rendering him blind. Every footfall echoed in his head, a countdown to inevitable discovery. As he sprinted through the city's veins, a fierce urgency pushed him to slip away, to find a haven where he could think clearly. But as he reached an open street, a rush of panic gripped him. Where would he go? The enormity of what he had just stumbled upon clawed at him, threatening to pull him down into despair. The truth he sought was powerful but, more importantly, lethal. He needed evidence. He needed that ledger. And quick. The stakes were rising, and he had become a target. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket, an unknown number. He hesitated. Should he answer? But curiosity won over fear. "Hello?" he breathed, heart racing. "Keep moving. They know you're there." A voice, distorted and breathing heavy, sent chills down his spine. "I have information that can save you, but you must act fast. Trust no one." Before he could respond, the line went dead, leaving him standing at a crossroads, breathless and paralyzed. Who could he trust? The light had dimmed back into uncertainty. The hunter was now the hunted. In that moment, a surreal realization dawned: whatever path he chose now could lead to freedom or finality. He ran on instinct, knowing the pieces were falling into place but terrified of the full image they might reveal. He took a sharp turn down a narrow alley, feeling eyes on him again. Was it true? Were they really closing in, ready to silence whatever threat he posed? His heart raced once more, pulsing with frantic energy. Had he just opened a Pandora's box? And worse yet, what would it unleash? As he pressed on, he realized he was intruding into a realm far darker and more dangerous than he had imagined. Could he find the truth without becoming a casualty of it? Or would he be another name swallowed by the shadows? The urgency hung thick in the air as he pondered his next move. The alley was a labyrinth of despair, the walls closing in around him as he barely slowed to catch his breath. Fear wrapped its fingers around his throat, squeezing tighter by the second. Each rattle of his heart echoed against the trash-strewn bricks, mocking him with the reminder of how easy it would be to disappear. Narrowing his thoughts, he focused on the voice that warned him. "Keep moving," it had said. But where was he going? He crossed the street, peering over his shoulder. Every shadow felt alive, bending and stretching as if searching for him, hunting him down. He had to keep moving. There had to be a way out. His mind raced. He needed a plan. The ledger, the prized piece of evidence that could expose the corrupt. The very thing that could destroy powerful men and set him free. But he didn't even know where it was. The meeting had revealed nothing but chaos and fear. Those people were afraid enough to take drastic measures. It made him wonder just how far they would go to protect their secrets. That he ducked into a nearby cafe, searching for refuge in its warm, comforting lights. As he stepped inside, the smell of coffee filled his lungs, almost soothing him. But he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Hey, man, you alright?" The barista looked concerned, his brow drawn together, and the journalist shook his head, cutting off the investigation into his psyche. "Just a bad night," he stuttered, trying to appear casual while leaning on the counter, taking long, desperate breaths. "Can I get you something? Just some water." He needed clarity, not caffeine-fueled jitters. The barista filled a glass and slid it across the bar. As he gulped it down, he felt the coolness wash over him, uniting his frantic mind and body, if only for a moment. Maybe he could find an ally in this chaos. "Do you have a phone I can use?" he asked, eyes darting back to the door. The barista nodded, handing him a landline behind the counter. With shaky hands, he began dialing his best friend, a fellow journalist who could help him sift through the mess. The phone rang and rang. No answer. Panic set in again. What if they were already onto him, the people who glided through the shadows? What if they had taken his friend too? "Hey!" The barista nudged him. "You good?" "Yeah." The response came out weak, like a whisper barely above a breath. He hung up, frustration boiling beneath his skin. He couldn't let his fear dictate his moves. Instead, he focused ahead, picturing the details he had missed at the meeting. If he could retrace his steps, perhaps he could find some clue whatever had sent him spiraling into this terror. Rising on unsteady legs, he turned back towards the door but froze. A figure stood outside, face shrouded in shadow, eyes peering in as if inspecting merchandise. "Get out," he thought. "Just leave." But when the figure stepped into the cafe light, recognition flooded him, a twisted grin on the billionaire's face, gleaming with the certainty of predatory dominance. "Thought you could run forever?" the man said, his voice smooth, like silk laced with poison. Instinct kicked in, and without thinking, the journalist bolted for the back door. Heart pounding, breath hitching as fear surged through him like icy water. What would he do? There was nowhere to hide. No safe space. Just a fight to survive this nightmare. With every step pounding on the old linoleum, he scoured for a way out. But as he reached the door, it swung open, revealing another shadowy figure. Panic surged in his chest. A cacophony of voices rang out behind him, the cafe bursting into chaos. Stop him. Don't let him get away. He had three choices: fight, flee, or hide. But would he even find the truth before they silenced him? The taste of fear prickled at his tongue, causing a lump to swell within him. What lay ahead felt uncertain, but there was no turning back now. As he burst through the back door, he found himself plunged into darkness. The alley opened up in front of him, but he could hear footsteps closing in fast. He glanced left, then right, seeking an escape route before they closed the net around him. And just like that, the moment hung heavy in the air, his future uncertain. Would he discover the truth? Or would he fall prey to the unforgiving shadows? The weight of the ledger pressed down on him, a ticking time bomb waiting for him to uncover it. Before he could make a choice, the chaos erupted again. Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he stumbled into the aftermath of the alley, each tainted breath warping his sense of reality. It was a world of shadows, a hidden realm lay just beyond the flickering streetlights, and he was caught somewhere at the edge, teetering into oblivion. He sprinted forward, the brick walls pressing in on all sides. The echoes of chaos followed him, voices amplified by desperation. Don't let him slip away. His heart raced faster, pumping urgency into every muscle. Each sound sliced through the night, the clattering of feet on pavement, the adrenaline-fueled shouts of his pursuers. He ducked into a narrow passageway, feeling the rough edges of graffitied bricks scrape against his skin. It was now or never. Glimmers of light wove through the darkness, shimmering from an unseen exit. He could hear the fading footsteps behind him, but the shadows were relentless. Who were they, these hunters of truth? He paused, pressing his back against the cold wall to catch his breath. Thoughts invaded his mind like a runaway train. The ledger. The details from that meeting haunted him: names, dates, whispers of secrets buried deep, each one a dollar bill in the hands of the powerful. If only he had remembered just one piece of information to lead him to it. Scraping noise broke through his thoughts. It came from behind him, a sound like metal against brick, like a door being pried open. Panic shot through him, and he took off again, urging his body forward in a blur, a desperate escape from a living nightmare. As he rounded the corner, a flicker of hope appeared, a pair of headlights slicing through the fog. A taxi. Unbelievable luck. His muscles screamed from exhaustion, but he pushed himself harder, envisioning the warmth of the inside, the safety it promised. That he waved frantically, arms flailing, trying to get the driver's attention. But just as the cab slowed, nightmares rushed back, and the headlights scoured the alley where he stood. He could see figures approaching, 3 of them, coming to finalize a task. Get in. The cabbie barked, his voice crackling like thunder. With a surge of willpower, he dove into the back seat. Go. Please, just go. The cab jerked forward, tires screeching in protest. Adrenaline mixed with a sense of relief as they sped away, leaving the chaos behind. But it didn't last. The journalist turned to catch a glimpse of the alley receding into darkness. Was it too easy? Hey, buddy, what's the rush? The driver asked, shooting him a sideways glance in the rearview mirror. It's complicated. The truth clawed at him, but he kept it close, knowing it was best to stay silent. Just drive. Suddenly, his gut twisted. The driver shifted his eyes back to the road, but something was wrong. An unsettling familiarity tugged at him, a name that echoed in his mind. He had seen that face somewhere. "Are you sure you want to get involved in this?" The driver muttered, his tone of voice suddenly somber. Those words, dripping with danger, sent a cold shiver down his spine. He scanned the street signs flashing past, searching for some sign of safety. Now the driver's nonchalance transformed into a predator's smile, revealing the four corners of a trapped puzzle. "What do you mean?" he asked, the words catching in his throat. The cab took an unexpected turn, deeper into the darkness. A part of him screamed. This was not an escape. No, it was a trap. The real question was, who was in control? "Where are you taking me?" Panic flooded back, tightening around him like a noose. A chuckle echoed in the small space, sending chills up his back. "You'll see. You can't run from the truth forever." And that flickering light of hope dimmed with each passing second, revealing the grim reality: he was farther from the truth than ever before. The shadowy hand of fate had just tightened its grip. The taxi climbed a narrow street, the dim glow of existence fading behind them. What kind of truth lay ahead? Was there still a way out, or was he walking straight into the jaws of the unknown? The cab swung into a dimly lit industrial area, where the buildings loomed like ancient sentinels, empty and threatening. The driver kept his eyes fixed on the road, the streetlights casting shadows over his face, accentuating the sharp lines and that unsettling grin. Every moment felt like a descent into chaos, yet he was trapped, unable to see a way out. "Where are we going?" he demanded, feeling his voice shake, a mix of fear and anger twirling inside him. "Somewhere you can find the answers," the driver replied cryptically, steering them into an alley that swallowed the light. The engine growled, echoing off the concrete walls like a warning. He pressed himself against the window, desperate to glimpse freedom. But the darkness outside was deafening, no sign of life, no escape. Adrenaline surged anew, flooding his veins with a cocktail of dread and caution. The more he thought about it, the more he wondered about the motives behind this sinister ride. If the driver knew something, would he even want to? Was this a chance for truth, or just another trap? As if sensing his hesitation, the driver chuckled again, almost maliciously. "You journalists are all the same, running towards the light without a clue what lurks in the shadows." The harshness in his voice sent shivers down his spine. "What do you mean?" He couldn't mask the tremor in his words. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough." The driver's eyes twinkled with twisted amusement as he continued deeper into the bowels of the urban maze. Shadows blurred around them, a visceral reminder of how quickly things could change. Suddenly, the taxi jolted to a halt. They were surrounded by oppressive brick walls, hardly more than a few feet apart. No one was around. An unbearable silence settled between them, thick and stifling. "Get out," the driver ordered, his tone cutting through the silence, hard and commanding. His heart raced. "What are you now?" The driver shot back, and something in his voice had changed, taking on the weight of a threat. A surge of instinct drove him to push open the door, stepping onto the cracked pavement with hesitant feet. The air reeked of rust and decay, every breath harder to take. The city seemed to hold its breath, waiting. "The truth is here," the driver said, pointing toward a doorway partially hidden in the gloom. "You just have to be brave enough to face it." Bravery? Or stupidity? Every part of him screamed to run, yet curiosity gnawed at him like a relentless dog. Was this where he would unravel the tangled web of deceit he had stumbled into, or would he find himself ensnared deeper within it? He stepped forward, heart pounding, the door creaking ominously as he twisted the handle. The darkness within beckoned, and as he took a breath, every instinct warned him that what lay ahead could change everything. He paused. The weight of the moment pressed against his chest. Was he ready for what truth awaited within those walls? As he pushed the door open, he stepped into the unknown, feeling the essence of foreboding wrap around him like a shroud. The dim light illuminated a figure in the corner, a familiar face stared back at him, a face he'd never expected to see again. "Welcome back," the figure said, voice smooth as silk, so deceptively inviting. What was this? More of the truth he had chased, or another layer of treachery waiting to ensnare him? And just as he thought the pieces might fit, the figures slipped away into the layers of darkness, shifting around him. What he thought he knew was beginning to spiral in unexpected directions. How deep did this rabbit hole really go? The murmur of the figure echoed off the cold walls, wrapping around him like a forgotten melody, familiar yet haunting. He squinted, trying to make sense of the face against the near-absolute darkness. It was a man he thought he'd left behind, a ghost from a past shrouded in mist. Mark? Confusion gripped him as he stepped closer, each movement heavy with uncertainty. "I thought you were gone." A ghostly smile cracked Mark's face, the shadows dancing around him. "Not everything is as it seems, my friend. You're far from the truth and from safety." An icy dread settled in his gut. The words echoed, hardening into a reality he wasn't ready to embrace. "What are you talking about?" He felt the walls closing in, like the grit in his stomach was becoming a palpable force. Mark took a step forward, shifting from shadow to faint light. "The answers you seek aren't just about the stories you chase. They run deeper than you've ever imagined. Are you willing to hear what's really going on?" A raw voice inside him cried out to flee, but he stood rooted in place. "What choice do I have? You've come this far." Mark's tone now held an urgency, as if time itself hung in the air like a blade. "You have to understand the forces at play. They're watching us right now." "Who?" Panic dripped from each word. Mark leaned closer. "The same people who watched me die." There was a knowing glimmer in his eye. "And they've held secrets so powerful, they're willing to kill for them." The words hit him like a knockout punch. His mind raced, connecting pieces he hadn't considered before. "Wait, how? How are you even here?" Mark waved a dismissive hand. "Not now. You need to listen. There's an operation unfolding. They've buried the real story beneath lies. You're a pawn in their game, but you can change that." Heart pounding, he glanced around, feeling the oppressive shadows around him tightening. "Okay, I'm listening. What do I do?" "There's a file, a drop location. It's all there. Evidence that can shake the foundation of everything you think you know." Mark paused, looking behind him, anxiety creeping into his features. "But there's more at stake than just your life. If they find you," he swallowed hard. "If they find me, what? Then you'll be just another journalist who pushed too far. Just another ghost in the machine." Mark's voice sank into a whisper. "You have to get the file before they do." A seed of determination sprouted inside him, even as fear lashed at his resolve. "How do I find this file?" Before Mark could respond, a sharp noise erupted from the entrance of the room, a sound like a jagged breath, sharp and threatening. Their conversation drained out into an abyss as the air became heavier, suffocating. "Time's running out." Mark's eyes widened, the urgency palpable, as he glanced toward the doorway. Suddenly, the light flickered ominously, and a figure loomed in the entrance, their silhouette sharp against the void. The tension surged, electricity snapping in the air, and he felt a primal instinct to flee, yet the weight of Mark's words held him captive. "You'll have to make a choice," Mark urged, desperation urging him closer. The figure stepped into the room, casting a longer shadow, and a voice like gravel echoed through the darkness. "You've wandered deep enough." His heart thundered in his chest, and as that familiar sheen of fear enveloped him, Mark's warning replayed in his mind. Were these the watchers, the architects of his impending doom? The room spun. What was the truth, and how far would he go to uncover it? Then the shadow spoke again, each word cutting through the thick tension like a knife. "You've come looking for answers, but you may just find yourself." With every beat of his heart, he felt the pulse of danger. And just when he thought his path forward would be illuminated, darkness swallowed him whole. What lay beyond that threshold, he didn't know. But he knew one thing for certain, it was going to be a fight for survival and the truth. A fight that would change everything he thought he knew. Panic clawed at him as the shadow took a step forward, swallowing the dim light. The voice, gravelly and smooth, wrapped around him like a predator tightening its jaws. "You've come to a crossroads, my friend. Allow me to guide you, or mislead you. The choice is yours." His mind raced. It felt like a tango between fear and curiosity, both pulling him in different directions. Mark's figure was still there, tugging at the fringes of his understanding, while this newcomer loomed like an executioner in the dark. "What do you want?" he asked, trying to sound braver than he felt. The figure chuckled, a low and chilling sound. "Want? Ah, we both know what I want. The truth." He leaned in closer, the shadows coiling tighter around them. "And you're the key. You hold the missing pieces." A bead of sweat trickled down his temple. "What truth? I don't even know what's happening." "Exactly." The voice dripped with sinister glee. "That's the beauty of it. You've been dancing on the edge for too long, sweetheart. You think you're searching for the file? You're merely scratching the surface of things beyond your comprehension." Mark's urgency surged against the ominous undertones of the stranger. "Don't listen to him." The plea echoed with an intensity that felt like a lifeline. "He's just here to sabotage you." But the figure ignored Mark, keeping his focus on him. "The world isn't a simple place. You're a journalist, right? How many times have you chased shadows thinking they were the truth? The real story is darker and much more tangled than you realize." Thoughts spun wildly in his head. He could turn back, hide from the darkness growing around him, or push forward into the unknown. The weight of both men's words pressed on his mind. "Why should I trust you?" he finally demanded. "You hide behind a mask of darkness, just like the rest of them. Trust is an illusion much like safety." The figure smiled, the gleam in his eyes faintly illuminated by the flickering light. "But what I offer is a chance to regain control. You're caught in a web that grows tighter with every passing moment. It's not about control. It's about what's right." He shouted, willing his voice to be firmer than the trembling of his hands. "Right? Or what's necessary?" The figure stepped closer, the illusion of comfort shattered. "Tell me, how far are you willing to go? To unearth this file? To unleash the truth?" Clarity began to break through the chaos swirling around him. "I won't be a pawn anymore. I'll find the file." "Will you?" The figure chuckled again, a sound sharp enough to draw blood. "You're already tied to powers greater than yourself. Only the desperate gamble for answers, and you seem desperate. You're running on fumes." "I'll take that risk," he asserted. "Then you will need to think fast. They are coming for you now, and I can help you for a price." Mark tensed further, glancing at the entrance where the echoing sounds of footsteps grew closer. "You can't trust him. If he knows where the file is, then he's one of them." "I can give you the insight you lack," the figure insisted, voice low and smooth as silk. "But know this, the truth is a heavy burden. You may not survive it." Silence punctuated the air like a gunshot, each breath he took reverberating with unspoken dread. Suddenly, the light flickered again, and the footsteps echoed louder, fierce and demanding. "What are you waiting for?" Mark urged. "We need to go." His heart thudded against his chest, racing with uncertainty. A choice loomed before him. One path with Mark, a flicker of hope and an ally from his past. The other shrouded in dark promises, but cloaked in the semblance of power. As the door creaked open, shadows spilling into the room, he felt the walls closing in. The decision hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. In that moment of hesitation, he realized this was more than just a choice, it was the tipping point of his very existence. What awaited him beyond that door? Only the weight of the unknown would reveal the consequences of his choice. The moment hung heavy in the air as he glanced between the imposing shadow and Mark's desperate face. It was a sickening twist of fate, standing on a precipice with no clear path ahead. "Choose!" Mark shouted, his voice breaking through the haze. In the split second that followed, the footfalls from the hallway erupted into heavy footsteps, closer, faster. With every second lost, the decision turned into an inescapable grip around his throat. Adrenaline surged through him, pulling him toward the figure cloaked in shadows. The question echoed louder in his mind: what was the price for the truth? "Wait!" he finally blurted, heart pounding. "What's the price?" The figure smiled broader, revealing teeth glimmering like daggers in the darkness. "Your freedom, and perhaps a little piece of your soul. But tell me, are you willing to pay?" Mark's expression faltered, and for a moment, anguish and fear melted into pleading concern. "Don't do this. It's a trap." But before he could think, before he could feel regret, he was stepping forward, pulled by that whisper of dark power. "I won't be your pawn, but I won't deny my truth anymore." The words were a declaration, set against the tide of chaos around him. The figure's laughter cut through the air like glass shattering. "You think choosing me makes you the master of your fate? Ah, sweet naive child. You are already entangled deeper than you realize." Without letting the words settle, he felt himself being wrapped up in the shadows, almost as if they were pulling him into a vortex. He instinctively reached for the only other light in the room: Mark. "Come with me," he urged, but Mark remained frozen, conflicted. Then came the terrible realization: the shadows weren't just closing in on him. They were reaching for Mark too, feeding off his indecision. With a shout, he turned back to the figure. "What have you done?" "Nothing yet, but I can help you save him. Or watch him get swallowed whole." The voice dripped with satisfaction, each word a taunt that clawed at his sanity. The pounding footsteps grew louder. Panic rose in him. Would they burst through the door at any moment? "What do I need to do?" he gasped, desperate to reclaim control of this escalating nightmare. "Follow my words, and the truth will reveal itself. But remember, truth comes at a cost, and every revelation more deadly than the last." His breath hitched. The shadows coiled tighter, inching toward Mark's terrified face. "No. I can't," he began, but the figure interrupted with insistent urgency. "They will soon be here. Make your choice. Step into the light of my knowledge or stay in the darkness and risk losing everything." Every second that ticked by felt like an eternity, the weight of his decision crushing down on him. Experience gnawed at the edges of his mind, reminding him of where such paths had led before, but there was no room for second-guessing anymore. Without further thought, he let instinct propel him forward. "Show me." The words erupted from his lips before he could grasp their full meaning. In an instant, the walls around him shimmered with shadows, swirling with colors he'd never seen, shapes forming and colliding. In that strange liminality, a visage emerged, an outline of something monumental. Was it the file? Was it the truth that had haunted him? Mark's cry barely broke through the chaos, solidifying the tether that yanked him back to the present. He needed to act fast. Before he could fully process his choices, he felt a sudden lurch in the air. Suddenly, screams filled the air, a cacophony of terror that sent chills down his spine. Footsteps fractured into a panicked stampede. Someone was trying to break in. With the shadows thrumming around him, he felt an impossible weight pressing against his chest. The truth loomed, shimmering just out of reach. But could he grasp it before the door burst open? The looming darkness began to twist, revealing fragments he never thought he'd see. A revelation danced on the edge of his consciousness, but would he be ready when it finally broke free? Shouting filled the air again, drowning out his thoughts. "You have to choose now." The figure hissed, urgency now palpable. He knew he had mere seconds. The shadows pulsed, the door splintering under relentless force. But what awaited him after he chose? Would the truth become a beacon of light or an insatiable abyss? Just then, the door shattered, sending splinters flying. The presence of looming figures filled the room, and he realized time had run out. The room erupted into chaos as the door burst open, the sounds of heavy footfalls and panicked shouts filling the air. Darkness thickened once more, wrapping around him, and in that moment, instinct took over. He felt desperation claw at his throat, a tightening grip of fear. Mark's anguished expression stitched itself into his memory, fueling his urgency. He had to act fast. "Get out!" Mark shouted, his voice hoarse but urgent. Instinctively, he pulled away from the shadows encroaching, breaking from their cold grasp. The figure that offered dark promises vanished into the whirlwind around him, replaced by the frantic energy of the moment. He made a split-second decision to flee down the narrow hallway they came from, the very shadows that buoyed him moments ago now threatening to drag him under. He sprinted forward, faster than he'd ever run. With thundering footsteps echoing behind him, he glanced back just once, heart racing as he prepared to face whatever lay ahead. His mind raced with thoughts: Mark, the file, the shadows, yet he needed at least one piece of truth to grasp in this tangled mess. As he rounded a corner, a glimmer of light pierced through the near-absolute darkness of the building. Hope sparked in his chest as he ran, lungs burning, legs screaming for mercy. Suddenly, he collided with a door, the metal bar slamming against his chest as he pushed through. It opened into a tiny office, cluttered and dimly lit. Papers lay scattered across a desk like fallen leaves, and he quickly scanned the room searching for anything that could help him. His eyes fell upon a drawer slightly ajar. With shaking hands, he pulled it open and found a familiar leather-bound notebook tucked inside. The ledger. Without thinking, he snatched it, gathering its significance, knowing it could hold the secrets that had cost so many their lives, but the chaos from the hallway drew nearer. A dim light flickered in the corridor, illuminating figures rushing towards him. The shadows were relentless. They weren't just pursuing him, they were hunting. With no time to spare, he tucked the ledger under his arm and bolted towards a window that he pushed it open with all his strength, the glass protesting as he squeezed halfway through when he heard a voice behind him. "Stop!" they shouted, anger palpable, drawing closer with each second. With a final push, he launched himself through the window, hitting the ground with a heavy thud. Pain rippled through him, but adrenaline surged, fueling his escape. He rolled to safety, springing up on instinct, determined to put distance between himself and the figures emerging from the building. The night enveloped him in its black embrace, and he sprinted down the alley, heart pounding like a drum in his ears. He was alive. He had the ledger. But was it enough? As he rushed through the winding streets, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread creeping up his spine. The truth was powerful, but the secrets he carried were equally destructive. He shielded the ledger as if it were a precious child, salting away the burden with the knowledge it could send shockwaves through the powerful elite. That he finally came to a halt when he reached a deserted park, breathing heavily as he scanned the area for any watchers. Hiding behind an old oak tree, he clutched the ledger tighter and allowed himself a moment to breathe. This was it, the dive into a world where shadows reigned. The depth of the truth loomed ahead, and choices didn't just decide paths, they could claim lives. A voice broke his solitude, dragging him back to reality, a familiar voice. It was Mark, rushing towards him, a look of panic and concern etched on his face. "You made it!" he exclaimed, relief swelling, but it was short-lived. "Did you get what we need?" He nodded, holding the ledger out like an offering. "It has names, dates, everything." Mark's expression shifted, a mix of excitement and dread filling his eyes. "Then we can take this to the press. But we need to move. They'll come looking for you." And just like that, urgency washed over them once more. Fear pulsed through the air as they sprinted into the unknown, their bodies racing against the ghosts that stretched after them. They were bound together in their desperate quest for truth, a flicker of hope illuminating a path amid the encroaching darkness. As they vanished into the night, the weight of the ledger loomed larger than life. Who would hold on to power? Those who lived in shadows, or those brave enough to step into the light? The game had transformed into a battle, and each heartbeat echoed a vow. The truth would break free, and if blood had already spilled, then they would ensure it would not be the last. He reached for Mark, eyes alight with newfound purpose. Let us make them hear it. With determination blazing in their hearts, they sprinted towards the light of hope, ready to face the storm. The truth would be unveiled. The darkness slinked away as they ran, replaced by an unwavering belief that they could fight for a better future and that change was waiting just ahead. And in the heart of the nightmare, their moment of greater purpose had finally begun. Now that we're at the end of this incredible tale, let us take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of our next exclusive stories. It's absolutely crucial. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. We want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. What did you think? Did you see that twist coming? And please, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the truth unveiled. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans know how important it is to back the channel.